Hey guys, it's Shara. This run it's time for one of the few good bug Pokemon pre-Gen 5. It's blue, has a huge attack stat, and like all good bug Pokemon, it's stupidly hard to get. It's Heracross. We start the game off, name the rival, and get one of the easiest first fights any Pokemon will get, managing to do it damageless on the first attempt. Maybe a damageless run is really easy if you just cheat in an overpowered starter. For the first half of the game, the huge base stats of Heracross will just carry this solo run. Not having to evolve from a weak form should make this a quick run, but do you guys think it can beat Gengar's time? Anyway, I get the payoff of my rival's name, then blitz through the early game. At this point I was trying to do minimum battles as well, so I was avoiding all the trainers I could while I was on the way to Rock's gym. So I get there really quickly after only 11 minutes. I've taught Heracross Rock Smash, so I've got a good stab type move for the rock types. This first attempt goes pretty well, but I get hit with a crit from Onix, which means I can't take a headbutt from Cranidos. The next attempt though is a lot luckier for me. Not only does Rock not crit me, I crit his Cranidos, ending the battle and getting me the lowest level and fastest first badge I've gotten in a solo run. After Rock, it's the dreaded Fat Cat. This thing scares me. In my spare time, I've been playing hardcore Nuzlocke runs of this game, but every time I get to Mars, her Purugly takes out multiple Pokemon without fail. This time I've only got one Pokemon, but it does have a type advantage and way better base stats than Purugly. The Zubat goes down in 2 horn attacks, doing almost no damage. Her Purugly comes out, gets in its free Fake Out. Next turn Purugly outspeeds, leaving me on only 16 HP. Maybe it was a mistake to be this underleveled for it, but then I get a crit defense dropping Rock Smash that almost one-shots. She gets to go first again, scratches, and leaves me on just 1 HP. I land a Rock Smash, ending the fight. I'm impressed by how clutch Heracross is. Beating Purugly while this underleveled is super tough. Let me know if you guys want to see me try to Nuzlocke Platinum in the future. It's another really fun challenge type that I want to make a video on, but it takes a lot longer to record, having to grind up an entire team as opposed to just one Pokemon. Mars is super tough, but she's nothing compared to Bug Catcher Jack and his level 15 Beautifly. He reminds me with a gust that my Heracross has a huge 4x weakness to flying with his bug fighting type. My last save was just before Mars as well. Fortunately, it turns out that even without the crit, Heracross is super clutch, beating Mars again. I only lose a few minutes to this setback. Heracross has also learned Aerial Ace by level up, which makes sense due to its flying type. Using Aerial Ace, I fly through the grass gym, and despite Leech Seed and Reflect, Gardenia is a pushover for the bug with the long snoot. I mean, I think it's a nose, looking at where it is on Heracross's face. But isn't like smelling half a meter above you weird? And also, is its main attack like nose-butting Pokemon? Also, why does it need those ball thingies? Anyway, moving away from Heracross's unique features, we come to one of the first real challenges of this run, Jupiter. Her first Pokemon is a Zubat. It uses Wing Attack and nearly one-shots Heracross. The 4x weakness really is crippling. So I go back to grind up enough to one-shot the Zubat, but during one of the trainer battles, I get poisoned. This activates Guts, which gives a 50% attack boost while it has status, so I go back to Jupiter, full heal up, and try again. This time with the Guts boost, I'm able to one-shot a Zubat, then have a really close fight against the Skuntank. With the poison damage and being outsped, this is going to be really tough. My second Brick Break leaves Skuntank on just a sliver, while I'm left on only 16 after the poison damage. Skuntank goes first, landing a Night Slash that puts me on only 2 HP. I get the KO after, but still, it was another super close fight. Heracross just has a really hard time with flying types. After Jupiter, I go and get the TM for Earthquake, which for some reason you can get super early in Platinum. I teach it to Heracross and I'll be keeping it all game. I also meet Cyrus for the first time this run. Next gym, it's Fantina. And she doesn't have any flying types, so this should be an easy one. I take down her Duskull in 2 hits. Next up, it's a Haunter, and it's using its usual tricks. It lands a Hypnosis, ending the first attempt. I try again, and this time I lose to a Confuse Ray from the Haunter. It's just going to be one of those fights you can win, but you need really good luck. So after another 5 attempts, I get a winning battle. This gym was quite tough, and although a lot of that is hypnosis and confusion luck, Heracross is starting to fall off a bit. We're no longer just winning every fight due to high base stats. Next, it's the third rival fight. I get super lucky critting his Staravia on my first attempt. I still have the Intimidate attack drop, but yet another critical hit takes out his Monferno, and the rest of his team right now is still quite frail, so his Weasel and Roselia both go down in one hit. Well, that seemed pretty easy, but I did get 2 crits on his scariest Pokemon, and I'm terrified for when he gets that Staraptor. After that, it's Maylene. Her Pokemon are again able to survive a hit from Heracross, but they don't deal that much damage thanks to Heracross's pretty decent defense stat. I get to a Lucario on a nice amount of HP, but thanks to Rock Tomb I'm slower than it, so it gets in a Metal Claw putting me down to just low orange. Thankfully I do get the one shot, but these battles keep getting closer. I know at some point I'm going to have to overlevel Heracross to win against some of the tough trainers coming up. Speaking of tougher trainers, it's Rival 4. This time I'm underleveled, and I don't get a crit on Staravia, so Heracross goes down in a single wing attack. I take a look at Heracross's Lund set, and see I'm not that far off close combat, which might give me enough damage to knock out Staravia even with Intimidate. So I rare candy up the 3 levels and try again. Close combat gets a crit, so I get past his Staravia. Next up it's Monferno, which just barely survives an Earthquake and then takes me out with Flame Wheel. That crit better not matter, or I'm gonna have to grind up even more, which I really want to avoid this early. I try again, and it does take out Staravia. Okay then, this should be fine. I hope the Earthquake last time was a low roll. This time the Earthquake is a one shot, and his Weasel goes down in a single hit. Finally his Roselia is last. It does manage to survive my first Earthquake, but it just can't deal enough damage, even with the defense drops. Next turn I take out Roselia and win the battle. This was still super tough, and we have 2 more rival fights to deal with. I think out of all the Pokemon games I've played, the Gen 4 rival has to have one of the best teams. He almost always has been challenging in every solo run I've done so far. Who do you guys think is the toughest rival? I'm pretty Gen 4 biased, so I might be wrong, but he just has some really fast, really strong Pokemon, especially when you give him an Infernape. After that tough rival fight, it's time for a more chill gym leader. It's Wake. First, I just want to say that I had the timer paused here because I just had to leave the game for a minute. I noticed I had it paused just before Cyrus and added the time from the recording to my timer. The time will still be out by a bit, but a few seconds aren't too significant over the course of a few hour long run. Anyway, time shenanigans aside, this is kinda tough. Because he leads with an Intimidate Pokemon, I learn Natural Gift to have an electric type move for the Gyarados. I don't count this as breaking the no held item rule, as I'm using the berry for the Natural Gift, not for its berry effect. Having an electric attack lets me almost one-shot the Gyarados, but due to the Intimidate it survives and puts me in an awkward situation where I have to close combat to finish the Gyarados. The defense drop then lets his Floatzel finish me off. So I try again, and yet again this blessed bug gets a crit. Maybe I should be kinder to bug types. I mean, it turns out they're pretty good if they crit all the time. With that crit, I'm able to easily take the fight. I use an Earthquake on Floatzel to do enough damage to take it out with a close combat on the next turn. Then it's his Quagsire. I go for another close combat and leave it on middle orange. It hits a Rock Tomb, and with all my defense drops, it does nearly take me out. The Nosehorn bug just manages to hang on, then finishes off the Quagsire next turn. These battles are all quite close, but with the pretty insane crit luck I'm getting, Heracross is fast. I'm on the first Cyrus fight at about 1 hour 50, while Gengar got here at 2 hours 10, a whole 20 minutes ahead. It is still possible to lose this lead though, as Gengar had only just become a Gengar at this point, and that's when it started to get really fast. Anyway, on to the first Cyrus fight with Heracross. I'm a bit worried going into this as he does have 2 flying types. The first attempt doesn't go too well. Even with some really good luck dodging Nair Cutter, I just don't deal enough damage to the Golbat. Its 4 times fighting resistance is also a pain. I need a stronger coverage move, so I teach Return over Shadow Claw and hope it's just enough to deal with the Golbat. Return does do over half damage, so using it, I'm able to get past his Golbat. Then I go for the close combat on the Murkrow, knocking it out in one shot, ending the fight with a nice amount of health. Cyrus is going to be a huge issue once he has Intimidate, and 10 minutes of Heracross's lead have just gone to one fight. let's hope the next major battle is a better one for us. Just before Canalave City, I go and pick up the TM for Sword Stance and all the rare candies that Surf now lets me get. I finally get rid of Rock Smash to learn Sword Stance, then attempt to cross the bridge, and get met with another Pokemon I've used before, Staraptor. The first fight just brings despair. Even with a 6th level advantage, Heracross just isn't tanky enough to take hits from Staraptor. So it's time to use all the rare candies I can and see if I can avoid having to grind. This gets me all the way up to level 48, allowing me to take down his Staraptor with a single close combat most of the time. His Infernape is also a one-shot, next it's his Heracross. So I think it's time to set up, then his flying bug type uses Aerial Ace, and leaves me solo Aqua Jet will take me out. So I guess it's time to change coverage move again. I go and pick up the TA for Aerial Ace and relearn it, so I can use the hidden flying type that Heracross has. Next attempt, and with the huge level advantage, I'm able to one-shot all this Pokemon despite the attack drop. But using the rare candies this early is bad. They would get me way more XP if used later, and I still have to fight the rival one last time. Byron is next, but with the newly gotten Sword Stance, it's not a challenge. After setting up for one turn, I outspeed and sweep his entire team. After that easy fight, Team Galactic blow up a lake, because plot. So we have to rebattle Saturn and Mars, and they both have Golbats, but again we're so overleveled they're just not a challenge. So we quickly move on to Candice, the second to last gym leader, and one of the 2 gym leaders with the type they use in their name. Unfortunately for Candice, her Pokemon are weak to fighting type, or they would be if they weren't dual types. Her Frostlass is immune to fighting and loves using double teams. And this battle is also made harder by me not healing up beforehand. As you can see, the first attempt got nearly one-shot by Aerial Ace from Sneasel, then dies to Frostlass. Aerial Ace seems to be really common on non-flying types. Anyway, after a few more attempts where I don't try and set up on Sneasel, I get a good run. After one-shotting the Sneasel, I set up a Sword Stance, then with a little bit of luck, I can hit the Frostlass through its double teams. After that, the rest of her team goes down in one hit. I love having a proper setup move for a solo run. Speaking of solo runs, let me know what you guys want to see next in the comments. I'd love to use a less good Pokemon in the future. Anyway, after Candice, it's time for Cyrus 2. I set up a Sword Stance on his Sneasel, then sweep his team. Let's hope the third battle is this easy. After climbing a mountain, it's time to finish the plot. First we must beat the double battle that took Gengar nearly half an hour. For Heracross though, this isn't too much of an issue. Again, just having a setup move makes the fight so much simpler. After setting up 2 Sword Stance, Heracross hits like a truck, even with Reflect Up most attacks with one-shots. We do get a lucky dodge and an air cutter from Golbat, but then finish it off next turn. Munchlax is confused by Bronzor while it proceeds to do not very much. I really don't like how this fight is made artificially hard by just giving the rival a really useless Pokemon. So as the Reflect ends, I go for an Earthquake to knock out the Skuntank and the Munchlax. That does let Bronzor get in one more hit, but it also makes the rival send out his Infernape, which is a way better Pokemon than that Munchlax. Next turn, I one-shot the Bronzor, then I one-shot the Golbat, leaving just one Purgly left against 2 Fighting Mons. This should be easy. It outspeeds me despite my 11 level advantage, and of course it knows Aerial Ace, one-shotting Heracross. Then my rival uses Close Combat and one-shots the Purgly back. Well, I never technically sent out a different Pokemon, so I haven't actually broken any of my rules. So let's keep on going. Next fight, and it's maybe the toughest fight I've had in a solo run so far. Cyrus has an Intimidate Pokemon, 2 really strong flying types, and usually starts the fight with a Burn. While the Burn gives us more attack thanks to Guts, most of his Pokemon also outspeed me, so the Burn gives too much chip damage for me to win. So after only getting through his first 3 Pokemon, Heracross faints. I'm only left with a few options. I can grind out attempts and maybe get a double Will-O-Wisp miss, grind out more levels, or get a different coverage move that has a low flinch chance that I can spam half an hour of attempts to get enough flinches to win. So of course I go for option 3 and get the TM for Rock Slide and come back. I really think I should have grinded out a few more levels here, as it probably would have been way more consistent and way quicker considering this was half an hour of attempts on just this fight. That made just this fight the longest part of this run. But I kept grinding out attempts because I thought leaving the distortion board again would end up being slower. This is just a fight I have to plan around better for future runs, but Heracross is probably one of the worst type combos in Sinnoh to use against this fight. Thankfully Heracross does have great stats though, so after enough attempts, I don't have to grind up anymore and finally get a winning battle. On my winning attempt, I set up our Sword Stance on Houndoom, then get burnt. I take it out next turn with an Earthquake, next up it's Crobat. It can almost one-shot me with a single Air Slash. I thought I'd have to grind up an attempt that gets a flinch or an Air Slash miss here, but for whatever reason he goes for a Confuse Ray. So I rely on Heracross's insane luck stat to ignore Confusion and hit the Rock Slide anyway. And then next turn I snap out of Confusion. I land another Rock Slide and one-shot his Honchkrow. Just 2 more Pokemon left and I've got almost all my health. I Rock Slide and one-shot his Gyarados, leaving me on just his last Pokemon. However, Weavile is super fast and outspeeds Heracross. I only need to tank 1 hit to win, but I only have 1/3 HP left. And then it lands a Fake Out, and after burn leaves me on just 28 HP. Well, that's it for this attempt then. But then for some reason the AI goes for the not very effective Night Slash instead of just winning with an Ice Punch. It leaves me on only 4 HP, but that's more than enough to land an Earthquake and win the fight. I guess Cyrus eventually just took pity on me, so he chose the worst moves he could. Well, I'll take it I guess. It's time to take down Giratina, and then the rest of the game. Giratina then gets the Ancient Power boost on the first turn, and I didn't save beforehand. Oh no. I decided to Sword Stance up while taking another 2 hits from Giratina. I don't think I can take another hit. So I have to go for the Mega Horn, which can miss. I get left on just 20 HP, but the Mega Horn just about takes out Giratina. I just came this close to having to redo the Cyrus fight again. After Giratina, I immediately save, then move on to the last leg of the game. Volkner is next, but due to Earthquake the fight is a cakewalk. I would have set up Sword Stance, but he probably would Thunder Wave me and make the fight losable, so I just Earthquake every turn and sweep him. Then in Victory Road, due to running out of PP, I lose to a Tangrowth. In fact, the same Tangrowth that also beat me in the Gastrodon run. After another attempt though, I get to the Pokemon League. First though, it's time for the last rival, and one of the banes of this run, Staraptor. My first attempt, I hit a Rock Slide, nearly one-shot the Staraptor, but then it returns with an Aerial Ace and leaves me in just 7 HP. I'm beginning to hate that move due to this run. I get to his Infernape, hit the Earthquake, and it also survives in a tiny amount of HP. First I think about getting Stone Edge to get more power to maybe one-shot the Staraptor. However, to get it, I need to beat another Staraptor in a double battle, which just isn't possible. I do also try relearning Close Combat to see if that can one-shot the Staraptor, and I think it's going to be more useful for the Elite Four than Mega Horn. But that doesn't do enough damage, so I have to rely on Rock Slide Flinch luck to win the fight. A few more attempts and I get the luck I need. I land the Flinch Rock Slide on Staraptor, taking it out. I still can't quite one-shot the Infernape, which then hits me with yet another Aerial Ace, leaving me on low orange. Why does everything know Aerial Ace? Next turn, I'm able to finish off his Infernape, and then after that, the fight is pretty much won. Snorlax goes down in a single Close Combat. I managed to get a crit on Heracross to one-shot it. I dodge a Sleep from Grass Whistle, then land a Close Combat, finishing the battle. This was pretty tough, and I had to get really lucky to win this attempt, but luck honestly just seems to be a feature of Heracross. Now it's time to take on the last 5, some of the toughest trainers in any Pokemon game. Most of them just get swept by Sword Stance and one overleveled Bug Boy. First up it's Aron, one of the tougher ones for Heracross because the Bug type specialist has the most flying type coverage to deal with all those fire types. I don't get why he has so much Aerial Ace, but I'll roll with it. My first attempt goes decent until I'm hit by Aerial Ace from Drapion, then I just can't deal enough damage to beat his Heracross. I go for another attempt, this time I set up Sword Stance on the Drapion, which lets me one-shot it with an Earthquake next turn. I get pretty bad luck in his Heracross not getting the knockout on my first hit. He responds with a Stone Edge, which puts me on only 8 HP. However, he's so low he goes for the Forest Door, which lets me hit him again for free, and this time I get the knockout. After that, his Vespi Queen just can't survive a 4 times effective Rock Slide. But then his Sizzle knows Quick Attack, and takes me out. Well, this is plenty doable. I just need to one-shot the Heracross first turn. Next attempt, I do just that, and can move on to Bertha. Also, Aaron thinks bug types are beautiful. Has he seen them? Heck, has he looked at Heracross and its long nose thing? Anyway, now Bertha has a lot of super tanky rock types that could usually be a lot of trouble for a bug. However, she leads with probably her worst Pokemon, Whiscash. So I set up a Sword Stance, and I one-shot the Whiscash. Then after some good flinch luck, I ground her Flying type, and then the rest of the team is all one-shotted by the Angry Bug. Third member up, it's Flint, the Fire type specialist, so I expect him to be tough for the long-nosed boy, but not one of his team can survive a non-boosted Earthquake. I was honestly not expecting to beat the Fire type Elite Four on my first attempt. I guess a huge attack stat and some overleveling will do that though. Flint is so embarrassed that he has nothing to say. So after that beatdown, it's finally time for the Elite Four's Lucian. Now he has Psychic types, which are also super effective, so he should be tough too, right? But then he sets up Reflect and Light Screen on his first turn, letting me get up 2 Sword Stance for free. I go for the final Sword Stance, which will get me the max attack boost possible, but then he gets a crit Psychic, leaving me on just 16 HP. I take out the Mr. Mime. Next it's his Espeon, who hits with a quick attack, putting me on only a single point of HP, but then I take it out with one shot. Then his Alakazam comes out, who outspeeds and takes me out. While not quite beaten on the first attempt, this should be pretty easy. If I'm less greedy with Sword Stance, we should be just fine, as most of his Pokemon are quite frail physically, even with the Reflect up. After just 2 Sword Stance, I begin attacking. I do barely survive the Alakazam's Psychic, but the rest of his team is easily one-shot and outspared. Cynthia is last, and unlike her Elite Four, she's not as much of a pushover. The real strategy to this though is to figure out just how many Sword Stances I need and when to get them. After the first attempt losing to a crit Psychic, and then the second not being able to one-shot the Spiritomb, I get a great attempt. After only 2 Sword Stance, I nearly sweep her entire team, her only saving grace being an extreme speed crit from a Lucario. I then go for another attempt to see if that crit mattered, and find out that it didn't. Extreme speed does more than 50 HP, but if I can just set up Sword Stance with a little bit more HP, this fight should be over. After another attempt, I find out it's a range to KO the Spiritomb with only 1 Sword Stance, and also a range to KO the Garchomp with 2. I was thinking about maybe only doing 1 Sword Stance until the Milotic, and Sword Stancing then, as the Surf will be doing less damage than the Psychic, but Spiritomb also has a pretty low special attack stat. So after a few more attempts, I get a winning run by getting double Sword Stance on the Spiritomb, and she gets some low roll Psychics. I then sweep her entire team, and this time her Lucario doesn't go for the extreme speed as my health is a little bit higher, so it also gets one shot before it can move. After a pretty rough middle game, Heracross gets my fastest time yet of 4 hours, 36 minutes, 17 seconds. What an insanely strong and clutch Pokemon. Thank you guys so much for suggesting this, and thank you guys so much for watching this too. Also, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and all of that, so that hopefully more people can see this and enjoy this like I hope you guys have if you've stayed this long. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching again, and have a great rest of your day.